All right, all right, all right. We should be live and good to go. Hello, everyone. It's been a minute. First of all, because it's been a while, let me know if our mics are good, if you guys hear both of us clearly and well. Just let us know in the chat. Wookie, I'm just going to give you a heads up. There's a little bit of delay between what we say and what you see on the screen. So if you're looking at the Twitch stream, there's a bit of delay, so just give them a minute to check it out. I'll ask them if everything is good.
Okay.
How's the audio, people? Everything clear? Just waiting to see what people say, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, my audio is gonna be shitty.
Okay, it's a little low. Let me pull it up a bit. Okay, we're good. Can you guys hear Wouter clearly? Okay, we're good. Can you guys hear Wouter clearly? All right, perfect. So we're good to go. So what's up, everybody? This is Mohammed. Today I'm here with Wouter Gort, aka Wookie, aka the Wookie, aka. So basically, just to give you a bit of background story, Wouter is an amazing illustrator and concept artist, super creative guy. So when I was starting my, learning 3D and so on, I went on ArtStation just looking for simple shapes to design and things like that. And I found his Royal Maréchaussée police revolver, which I'll paste right now in the chat. And I saw that thing and I was like, wow, this looks super cool and doesn't seem too complex for me to model. So I went about modeling it and sharing the final project with him. And since then, man, I've been keeping an eye on everything he's been doing, and so I'm super excited to have him over. And if you guys didn't know, we recently posted a gun to promote our Fusion 360 course that's coming up soon, and Wouter was the apprentice on it, so he did a phenomenal job. I'll be posting more of his work on the for the course soon, and but yeah, that's a background story, and I'll let Wouter take over and talk a little bit, introduce himself.
Cool, man. Thanks. Thanks for inviting me. By the way, this is exciting and also nervous or like nerve-wracking or whatever you call it. But yeah, my name is Wouter Gort, and I'm from Amsterdam in the Netherlands, and I'm a concept designer and illustrator. I've been doing that for a while now.
Or do you work somewhere?
I'm a freelancer now.
Okay.
The last company I worked at was actually in theme park design, and ever since then I've been freelancing. And honestly, I love it.
That's
I
awesome.
never want to go back to working in-house again, if possible.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, how did how did the journey into concept art start? Because I feel like most artists or designers or motion designers or graphic designers generally get into design because that's one of the few ways they realize they can make a living making art. But for instance, in my case, I wasn't aware of concept art until I discovered Learn Squared, like until about 2 years ago. And and a lot of the students or the people who watch the stream or take the courses are people who have some sort of art affinity, but never really kept going with illustration or 3D. Like how did you sort of stay on the train, on the art train?
Gotcha. Yeah. So After, I mean, I've always been drawing, but like you, I didn't know about concept art either, or not in that way at least. I always loved games though, loved playing them. And then when I was finished with high school, I did like a game design study.
Okay.
But that was more, so actually in that study, I mostly did programming or scripting. I was just drawing on the
Python.
side. No, like super crappy scripting, like it's called ActionScript. This was like in the days where
Oh yeah,
Flash was still
Flash.
acceptable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I used to make like, and this was a game design school that was mostly aimed towards, like web games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, and for some reason, I got put into the group of like the programmers or scripters and not in the group of the artists. So that's what I did for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just drew and stuff while I was home. And then when I was done with that, I wanted to go back to the drawing more. So I went, but I wanted to become like a fine artist or something like that. So I went to like an actual, like art school, fine art school.
Yeah.
Yeah, and after half a year, I fucking hated it so much. I knew, like this is not what I want to be at all. And this is around the time that, I started getting more into concept art, learning more about it in that half year. Because before that, I figured I was just gonna be like a Flash game developer or mobile game developer or something. But I kind of grew out of that. And then at art school, I thought I was gonna be, like a poor artist, I guess. Like the typical artist hope to make it with that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I learned about this, which is more, I guess, commercial illustration and commercial design. And I felt that's what I really loved. Like I love that balance of the two. And so then I quit art school after half a year, and then I went to the United States to this small school called the Concept Design Academy to
Where's
take some
that?
classes. It's in Pasadena, in like near LA. So it's a small little city, I guess, above LA.
Okay.
It's a really nice place, and I just thought I'm just gonna try that, like see how that is, and then I really loved it. So I went there for about 5 years in a row. Every year, only 3 months, because of visas. So it was more workshop.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so that's basically how I got into it. Um, CDA was a big deal, and Concept Design Academy was a big deal for me in that that regard.
That's pretty awesome, man. And
Yeah.
that's where. So when was that? Because you said you went 5 years in a row, but how long ago was that?
Yeah, so that started in 2011. So, but the last few times I went, I was already working, but just going there to, try to become better,
Okay.
brush up on skills. Because the cool thing is that it's 10 weeks, so it's not that long, So it's such a, if I was able to, I would just try to go there and only focus on, learning and getting better. This was actually from the class, or the drawing was from one of the classes uh,
This
that
is one of my
took
favorite
part.
pieces.
Thanks, man. It's a bit old. I should do more like kind of drawings, I guess. But yeah, so and the classes there were so intense, and I just fell in love with it, with the whole thing. And the teachers there are so good and so nice too. That it was just
Who
so.
were some of your instructors?
So one of the first times I went, I got taught by Peter Hahn. Uh,
Yeah, from
he's
CGMA Dynamic.
Yeah,
Yeah, drawing.
exactly. One of the best classes I ever took, because that taught me how to think a whole new way about drawing, stuff and all that. And that year I also took classes from this guy called Bill Perkins. He's also amazing. He's
Yeah.
the art director from Aladdin and stuff like that.
Mm.
And Kevin Chen, who is the owner of CDA, and who is like, to me, one of the most amazing figure drawing um, teachers. And
Okay.
then after that, I took more classes, like more advanced classes. So I took classes from Darren Quach, Andy Chung, John Park, James Pike. Uh, so, you know, a lot of amazing teachers, and they're all so good. You know, they're so good, but they're so good at teaching too.
Yeah.
That it was just Ryan Lang too. I took one of his classes as well, and it's just 10 weeks full on. You know, you just work your ass off during the week, and then you do feedback rounds and lectures
During the
each
weekend.
week.
Okay, cool.
And yeah, it's
S-
incredible.
So the focus was more on like 2D skills, like
At first, yeah, and that's what I really wanted. So basically, when I finished with art school, right, I had this, I don't know, arrogance or like idiot feeling that I could, because I was looking at the website and I saw all these amazing advanced classes.
mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh shit, you know, like I want to take all of those. So I emailed Kevin, the owner, and said like, hey, this is what I'm planning on taking. You know, can you take a look at my portfolio and see what you think? And he basically told me, like, no, you need to start with the, you know, basics, the very
Foundation.
basic classes, um, which was so the best advice, you know, he could give me because I was just tempted by seeing the amazing stuff, the examples of those advanced classes that I wanted to go straight to there. And he basically was like, no, no, don't do it. So the first time I went there, I didn't even have a laptop or anything. It was all traditional painting, traditional drawing, nothing digital. So it was, yeah, like very 2D focused. And then through the years, I took more digital classes. Second time was also all traditional. The sketches on my art station that you see at the bottom, just
Yeah.
the pen
These.
drawings are, yeah, they're from advanced Viscom class with Darren Quatch. Um, so that was just basically us drawing all week long, drawing designs, and then trying to work out those designs, which helped me so much. I'm so glad that I didn't jump into the digital right away because it really helps me now in my work. And then later I took like a class with Van Ling, Modo class, and more digital
He's a
classes.
beast, man. That's I
Yeah, man.
learned Modo with Vaughn, and like
Yeah,
he has such a particular visual language when it comes to shapes and all that stuff. It's really interesting, and that's sort of what I appreciate about your personal work is it's different from what you see on ArtStation, like just in terms of the shapes, the proportions, and all that stuff, is completely different. And I don't know if it's because you're going 2D first and then doing 3D stuff, or I don't know what is it exactly, but it's something that I really appreciate about the work. And also
thanks, man.
perhaps the fact you being in Europe, the even the sort of cell shading, like look of your illustrations, it's a mix of, you know, Mobius and all these different
Yeah,
things, like almost a hybrid of anime and European comics and so on. So I think the result is
yeah.
really interesting and cool.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, for me, this is just. I think maybe some has to do with, you know, the little bit of art school where we were really forced to try out a lot of stuff, and that kind of stuck with me a little bit. And then, but then after that, there was a long period of trying to, or you know, you're not really finding your style. I guess it comes to you, but you know that experimental phase where I tried, you know, the super realistic stuff and the photo heavy stuff or painting heavy stuff, and I figured that wasn't really for me. And then I went back to the drawing that I initially learned, you know, at CDA and was always doing myself. And I was trying to find a way to combine that, you know, to I basically said I want to be able to see the lines because that's my favorite part, and that's kind of how the cell shading, you know, thing came into.
Came to be.
Uh, yeah, like for me, I just prefer I enjoy. It's kind of weird, maybe egoistic, but that's just the most fun, you know, to do. I don't really like to take it much further than that. So yeah, I just go with what I enjoy. You know, what is the most fun for me.
Cool. Do you wanna? We can get started if you wanna have, you know, if you wanna do a quick demo or something, and
Mhm.
People in the chat, if you guys have any questions for Wouter about his process, or even his perhaps, yeah, perhaps this is something you could talk about, Wouter. Like, when you're going about starting something, like
Yeah.
how do you go about getting inspired and making sure like you're doing something that's different to what you see on ArtStation or all that stuff?
Yeah, for inspiration, like for me, a very big part is to sounds weird, but to not be involved with art all the time. So I have specific times that I try not to think about it and worry about other stuff. And for some weird reason, that's mostly the most inspiring time, like a holiday or something. I never bring sketchbooks or anything like that, or try to think about drawing. And then ideas sort of more pop up because of what you see around you. You're
Yeah.
just appreciating it for what it is, and not trying to tie it to some art related thing. Um, but so that's really inspiring to me, and just I get a lot out of movies, video games, and I don't play them. Like a big thing for me is I don't watch movies for design or for art. Like I try to not think about, like, turn that part of my brain off when I'm watching it, because I want to get just to enjoy it and get that experience
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of feeling. Like it's kind of weird, but I like, for my art, for my work, I think on my art station too, most things have like the intent. I'm not saying it succeeds, but the intent is for stuff to be badass. That's just something I really like the badass, thing. And
Yeah.
so when you watch a movie or something, then, and it's for example, Akira, one of my all-time favorites. It's so badass, like that really starts the mind to just like do crazy daytime fantasy dreaming about stuff like that. And I think sort of ideas pop up that way. I don't really do a lot of reference searching. I mean, I do it, of course, when I work on something, but not to get ideas.
Mm-hmm.
The idea comes, and then I try to chase that. And that's, yeah, so,
And
uh,
do you do anything else like on the side, photography, or do you just stick to illustration mainly and concept art?
well, I try to keep within illustration and concept, but I try to keep broadening that. So I'm very into now 3D with the Fusion 360, and like also with Modo a bit, and now into 3D printing. I'm really into that, and airbrushing. So I guess that's all kind of creative too. And I love making crappy videos with my iPhone
Mm.
from holidays or whatever. So yeah, I guess those things are a bit um, along uh, that that line. But I would love to get into photography, but I'm really not good at it yet. Do you do that? Do you do photography?
Yeah, like I did a while back when I was starting design. I
Mhm.
took photo classes as well, and I sort of fell in love with 35 millimeter photography.
Okay.
So I have an old Nikon FE, a color camera with a wide angle 24 millimeters, and whenever I travel, that's what I take with me. So I
Yeah.
actually have a bag of rolls that I need to go and develop. But because it's becoming more and more rare to find like places that actually do develop film photography,
Hmm.
it gets more and more expensive.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's something that I do, something that I really enjoy, and I'm grateful that I'm doing it, because now that I start now that I'm starting to sort of get deeper into 3D and everything, it's easy for me, like even when I watch a movie or something, I can sort of recognize what lens is used. So when I want a certain effect, when you're doing landscape or whatever environment painting, it's easier if you have an understanding of photography to sort of visualize the image and the perspective and
Yeah.
see what you need. And that's something when people aren't aware of the way the eye sees and the way we try to mimic that with different lenses, with whether it's a wide angle, a telephoto, and so on and so forth.
Hmm.
You see a lot of mistakes when it comes to perspective, which could
Yeah.
be easily resolved with just a better knowledge of photography. But that's a whole different conversation.
Composition as well.
Yeah, and Bill Perkins, I actually, you mentioned studying under Bill Perkins at
Yeah.
CDA. I took a course from him on New Masters Academy. And if
Cool.
you guys, if you guys are looking for like a good composition course, like he has a course that's super basic but that's really good and interesting. Like he goes about just explaining simple foundation elements such as balance, such as uh, symmetry, asymmetrical. How do you use proportion, contrast, and all these different elements that just go to building a stronger image. I'll paste. I'll try to find the course and put it in the chat. But that's something really. It's something that helped me a lot when I was taking the UI
Yeah.
and Ash's UI and data course. That's what helped
He's
me
an
sort of.
amazing teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have two questions here. One from Jeremy, who was asking, like, what were the classes that you took at CDA? I know you mentioned a bit, but if you could just list a few of them again, like some of the
Yeah, sure.
main ones, because basically he's been taking courses there for the last
Okay.
little while, and he just wants like a few of the courses you took.
Yeah. So I started with let's see, analytical figure drawing by Kevin Chen. This is first year. Analytical figure drawing with Kevin Chen. This was a color and light class by Bill Perkins. I'm not sure if he teaches anymore. I think someone else took over.
Okay.
And I took Peter Hand's dynamic sketching class, Viscom 1. Only those three. I feel like at CDA, for me, three classes is the perfect number. Homework-wise, you're completely full for the whole week. You know, if you take the right homework classes. So I never took more than three.
So
So
visual
yeah,
communication, dynamic drawing, and
yeah, analytical figure drawing and color and light.
yeah.
And then and in the next years, I took a little bit more advanced class. So I took, but a lot of those are not around anymore. I think you have to go to the brainstorm school for those classes because like James Pike and John Park started their own school. So I'm not sure what classes they have, but they must be similar to what I
Okay.
took. So I took environment design with James Pike, took a shape language with John Park,
Okay.
and dynamic sketching, but those don't exist anymore at CDA, so I don't know if that helps um, much. But I think for those classes, the more advanced classes, you can definitely go to Brainstorm. I think they should they probably filled that gap. They took that into their own school.
Okay. The second question you have is for the grenade, the Zutzer Grenade 01 that you designed, the yellow one. How
Yeah.
much 3D was involved in the process?
Okay, so for this Zaozu grenade, there's no 3D, but for the gun, I used Modo as a base. So I actually that revolver, I just downloaded a free 3D model of a existing revolver for the proportions, and then I posed that in Modo, and then I just drew over it. That was between the gun and the grenade was when I started to use more 3D. So in hindsight, I would definitely have used 3D on the grenade too, because I mean I think it's still sometimes it's fun to not use 3D, but I just try to use it as much as I can because it saves me a lot of time,
Yeah.
and I like to focus as much on the design and not about the that initial stage.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to get started,
Yeah,
it's
like this pirate, I can show the process about that. Like I'm really, like kind of anal about the way I work and layers and stuff like that. I
okay.
even name my layers, so I could show how I did that guy, for example. if people would like to see that, then yeah, give me that. Uh, how long is that delay? So I know how.
The delay is probably, I'll tell you right now. Yeah, it's probably about 20 seconds delay.
Gotcha.
But they'll see it at the same time, so it's fine.
Oh, the audio and the
Yeah, it's
that is
synced.
sync?
It's synced, so they get both at the same time.
Gotcha. Okay, that's cool. Okay, so for example, this is the pirate dude, whatever. I don't like to do the title thing, don't really know about that. So I basically never do sketches for something. I just do it's kind of weird maybe process, but I like in the morning I usually go for a run, and then I
Okay.
try to do this weird thing where I have this idea, of a guy pirate with tentacle stuff, and then I just go for a run and try to sort of make an image of that in my mind. It's not complete, but kind of that basic feel. And then when I get home, I basically try to chase that right away, as much as possible. And I don't know, that's probably not the best way, but because you can get a lot of cool variation with, trying out different sketches and stuff like that. But for me, I just like to work towards an end goal. So I just like to get started with the final thing and then, you know,
I
try and
think
finish it.
I think that's how a lot of people want to go about things, but the hardest is when you have a good visual vocabulary and everything, but
Yeah,
you have this idea of this pirate with tentacles, and you
yeah,
get there and you get stuck because somewhere the technique is lacking, whether it's the understanding of anatomy or this or that. So
for sure.
um
Yeah.
but yeah, it's
So
cool to have the skills to be able to just jump in and get that stuff done. But yeah, go
Well,
ahead.
as a kind of lead up to that, because it's kind of then yeah, I see what you mean. It's kind of unfair, like I know that sounds kind of then cocky or kind of like a douchebaggery, but
No.
so for example, with the Peter Hans class, right? All we did there was draw from reference. So draw, go to car museums, go to the zoo, all that stuff, and just draw animals for a week, for example, or 2 weeks. We had to draw only animals or only bugs or stuff like that. And
Hmm.
then at the end of that week, we had to do a redesign of what we or a design based on what we've been learning all week. So, for example, we had to draw bugs all week. Go to museums, go to wherever there are bugs, and then at the end of the week, do our own design based on what we learned. So draw our own bug or draw a guy with bug armor or stuff like that. And I
Okay.
feel that kind of stuff helps so much in building up your library. Just keep doing. I did that for so long, and now I have less time, but I still like to do that whenever I can. Just go to a museum and try to study a lot, and then try to do a design of my own. Based on the things I've learned to try and connect it all.
Hmm.
So I guess that overall helps with stuff like that. And then I'll show you in a bit when I show the process. I like to make it as easy on myself as possible. So, okay, so when I'm running, I have this image in my head, but I don't know how the tentacles look or how the suit looks. That's kind of like a blurry visual image you have. So then when I get home and I kind of know what I want, then I can start gathering some reference, of how to, and then the picture in my mind becomes clearer, once
Hmm.
you have some visual reference of tentacles, of pirate dudes, whatever. And I watched the 1 to 4 Pirates of the Caribbean movie, so the pirate thing,
Yeah.
that feeling was there. Um, so yeah, um, that I guess that kind of helps to
Yeah, to polish the image in your mind.
yeah, and to go for it straight away, instead of the sketching. And I think the sketching is very valid option, but for me, it's just something that I prefer.
Hmm.
And that kind of comes actually from the class I got was taught by Andy Chung. All classes taught to go from big shapes to small, add details last. And then I took a, advanced design class or something from him. And his way of working was so strange at first. He just starts with a small detail and then he just draws the whole thing without doing a sketch, without doing perspective lines. If you ever can see him work, it's absolutely insane. And he made us do that. And of course, we all sucked at it because it was, like that's super hard. He'll draw a car and he'll just start with a tiny detail on a headlight or something, and he just draws the car from there. So, but forcing us to do that, even though we really sucked at it, really helped with the
I feel like
going for it right away.
that's how Kim Jong-ji draws, right? He starts from a
Yeah,
horn,
yeah,
demon horn, and then next thing you know, he finished an entire mural.
yeah. He's crazy. He's this crazy visualization. Like you can tell that he sees it in his mind. It's just his hand, doing it.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's he's insane, man. But I feel like we can never reach that level. But it's so I really think that's such a cool thing to try and learn, like the visualization. Like because one of my issues is that when I sketch or something, I just start drawing down lines and I kind of don't know what's happening or something. I go
Hmm.
too fast for myself. So that's what I also love about drawing with pen, that you really have to think, try to visualize the shape, visualize what you're doing, and then your hand is drawing it. But for me, that's supposed to be the order. But when I start just sketching with pencil or like on the computer, I just start, my hand becomes for my brain sometimes. So yeah, that's something I try to work on and try to work on, which is my way of working too. That makes sense. I'm kind of rambling on.
No, no, go ahead. So how do
Yeah.
you start when
Yeah.
you're building this image? Like, where do you start from?
So for this one, over the last 2 years, I tried to use as much 3D. So for this, I started with DOS 3D.
Okay.
I just go straight into DOS. I kind of know what I want the guy to stand like.
Mm-hmm.
So I go into DOS. I pose some random guy. Uh, and what I love about DOS is that I can be a lot more subtle than my because I know I'm not good enough to do that in with my own figure drawing skills. I'm just too shitty. And a year ago or a year and a half ago, I still did it without DOS, and it just
Uh-oh.
proportions or anatomy and stuff like that. And it just sucked. Like I didn't even want to do characters anymore. So with something like DOS, I just can be really subtle. I love that about it. I can pose the arm exactly how I want and get that feeling that I was looking for. And then I take it into Modo and just do some, dramatic lighting that I'm not sure if I'll use, but I just want to have that option.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how I start. Not in all cases, not with mechanical stuff, for example, but with characters. Nowadays, yeah, this is just usually how I prefer to work.
For
Um,
for mechanical stuff, do you also model in 3D Fusion or Modo, or like because the
mm,
shapes are simpler, you just go straight into drawing?
Yeah, it really depends. So if for example that gun I did for the Fusion 360 class, it,
Yeah.
it kind of folds in and out. So in that case, I really want to do it in 3D so I can prove um, that yeah that I want to prove that it can work. So in that case, I really want to do it in 3D.
Mm-hmm.
In some cases where where I have a clear visual image or I think, hey, I can easily draw this. I guess that comes over time with experience where you think this I should really do in 3D and this I can just draw.
Okay.
Because for me, sometimes drawing is just more fun. And at the end of the day, I just want to have fun because I think that creates the best work. So yeah, if I can, I'll just draw it. But now, for example, with Fusion 360, I actually love working in that program. So probably more mechanical stuff I'll try to do in there. Uh, but also the tools sometimes dictate a bit, you know. For example, if I want to do something more organic, I probably might still draw it because my skill at this point in Fusion 360 will probably limit that a bit and make it more rigid. And yeah, so it
Cool.
kind of depends, I guess. Uh,
So you pose the
so
model in DAZ, and
yeah,
and you probably arrange your lighting just to have to limit the amount of work in Photoshop.
Yeah, like I like to. I used to not do this and just make it up myself. Make it up myself. And sometimes I still decide to do something else, and I won't re-render it, but just kind of guess it or something. And sometimes that can be a more exciting result because it's not that accurate.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like I prefer to spend most of my time doing the design stuff and not the anatomy, or it's something I really don't enjoy actually. So
Okay.
that's why this is for me is such a nice way of like kind of getting rid of that task, and then I can just focus on having fun with the drawing. So okay, so when I have this, um, let's see, then I'll do some kind of like overall sketch. So this is where I will sketch. Um, just within the design, so not different options, but just kind of that thing. Um, so so can you see this already or no?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
no.
We can see it.
Okay, gotcha. So yeah, so then I'll do something like this, like I didn't like the head, so I didn't like that he looked at us. I kind of wanted him to look away, be more involved with something else rather than the viewer. But I'll do this so I kind of, have some nice underlayer for me to draw over.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, I'll also have some reference. Let's see, some whatever pirates. I find this tough, the pirates, because it's all from movies. So I try to, I'll look at that, but then I kind of try to also take it away. I still haven't figured it out actually because I don't really like the costume I made because yeah, it's kind of like just movie pirate stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I didn't do too much research there. Some ladybugs, and I also had some reference somewhere of the tentacles. So then I'll grab that to just get those basic kind of shape and feel.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, so basically something like this, I would put on like a 10% opacity layer, and then go for the final image over that. So the next step would be this. That is the drawing stage, and yeah, if you can see in the layers, it's just two layers: the main guy and the bugs. I did added on later because I thought it would be like a fun attachment. Um, but yeah, from that sketch, I just put that on 10% and then draw over my final lines. And this is basically the most fun, just putting in little details and folds. And it's a bit easier because you already have the basic shape of the clothing. So you kind of know that if you stick within those, lines, that should be sort of okay. After that, I do flat colors, like this. So this is all flat with like a little bit of variation, maybe shading in the clothing themselves. And sometimes I leave something like this for clients as well. Sometimes this is all they need, maybe some material indication. But in this case, I like to do some dramatic lighting. But I really like working this way because this is all separate. So I can change the lighting if I want, or I can change the underlying local values at the end, to
Yeah.
create to change it. So after that, I add the lighting, and this is basically a combination of putting stuff on multiply, doing like a color dodge lighting pass on top of the work, on top of the illustration,
How
and
can you just show quickly how do you do that?
yeah, for sure. So okay, I start. Let's see. So this is the local value, and at this point, I also change the background, or I usually put it on black just to make it easier for me to see the lighting.
Mm-hmm.
First thing I do, so if I have this blue background, I like to do some a multiply layer just on top uh, with some blue or something like that, some color to make it darker, as some sort of shading pass, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I do is, let's see, yeah, so this layer, I basically draw the light on top, taking reference from the 3D.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a lot I have to figure out myself, of course, with the tentacles and stuff. But when you have that 3D, it's not that big of a deal because you kind of know where it's coming from. So you have a really strong or origin or however you call it to go from.
Mm-hmm.
So let me see. I can show if I put this on color dodge. Mm, even if I put it on red, um, uh, I can just start coloring in, you know, light, and it's really I really like that way of working. I don't always do it. For example, when it's a bright image and it's not going to be some dark, moody image, I'll do the other way around. I'll just leave the image as is and start drawing in the shadows instead of the lights. So
Okay.
it's kind of kind of playing around, seeing what works best. It's not a fixed thing. And from that, I add some extra. I don't add a lot more than this, to be honest. But for example, some small details with another color dodge layer, but for example on white and not on blue, to add some small little hints of, for example, what would be shiny material or what would be a metal or something like that. I didn't do that too much here. Oops. And then, yeah, so that's basically, I try to keep it as simple as possible. So basically that overlayer I did on multiply is kind of my shadow color, and then the light I draw on top is the other color, and I like to keep it, as simple as possible because it also makes it easier for me. But the fun part for me with this is that now I can, when I'm done, see, I can completely change the lighting scheme if I want to.
Wow.
Um, so for example, I might have liked this better, and it's very easy to change. So because it's all separate, let's see. For example, I go back to my flat color. So all the green. I'm such a douche that I even color my my folders, but I like to keep it very clean for myself. Makes it very easy for me. So if I go back to my flat layers, I even named all my layers because I know that's probably crazy for a lot of people, but it helps me and it only takes me a second to do it. So let's say I want to have this shoes white. I go to hat shirt or I go to let's see the tentacles. I change them, to I don't know, just blue or whatever. So I kind of can change whatever I want now, and I try to not do that too much because you kind of can get lost in your options.
Mm-hmm.
But I love having that possibility, and it's great for clients because usually if I have to do this for clients, I can easily send them, like four versions with small changes in design and in color, and they can say, "Hey, give me this or that," and it's very easy for me to do that. So yeah. Mm.
That's pretty impressive, man. Like the way you sort of separate all the layers to allow you like to have so much flexibility once the character is done, because it's
Yeah.
almost like you can have your library of materials or whatever not, and then just sort of change on the fly like the hair
Yeah,
color, or so that's pretty.
exactly. And it's fun, it's super fun to do that stuff. Like for me,
But
that's
that,
always the biggest
is it
thing.
something you learned at CDA, or is that a workflow that came naturally to you like as
Uh,
time went by?
that's a workflow that came more to me. I haven't been taught classes that do this style per se, but still I have to give them full credit because that all the things they taught led up to this. So for example, the way I do line drawings is very similar to, or maybe not similar, but in a way I took a lot from how Darren Quach taught me to draw. So and then maybe I took a little bit from how Andy Chung taught me to draw. So it's a combination of those things. And then the painting, I realized I wasn't really good at that, and it got overwhelming for me too quickly. Um, so I got really overwhelmed by the local colors, the lighting, and all that stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
then, because of that frustration, I started to try and separate it. So only focus on local colors and then trying to add lighting separately and seeing if that would work. And it kind of worked. So when I figured that out, it was one of those moments for me. Okay, this is something I really like, and this is something I can grasp because I just don't think I'm good enough in painting to do those things simultaneously, those steps.
Mm.
Uh, so for some reason, for my mind, like the weird organization I have with layers is something that I find very, pleasant to work with.
That's pretty
Uh,
awesome. Someone's asking, is there,
Yep.
do you, do you think there's a lot more demand like to have 3D, like, if you're working on a contract and they're asking you for this tentacle pirate, like,
Mhm.
is there more demand to have like that asset as a 3D element, as a 3D model, or are people generally more interested in 2D, or is there no real like relationship between both?
For me, the thing I present to my clients is always 2D, because I'm a concept artist and they don't even know that I use 3D for this. So I don't do 3D work for clients. Like sometimes if I do a gun, I might send them the block-in model just so I know that they have the accurate proportions,
Mm-hmm.
and then they can see if they want to use that. But I won't do production style 3D work. I don't think that's my expertise or what I'm good at.
Mm-hmm.
So the image, what I send them is always 2D, and the the final result I like and I think I'm best at is this drawn style. So if there is a bit more demand for 3D, I would tell this client to that I'm not the right fit, for
Okay.
this kind of work. Yeah, yeah,
How you mentioned that you're freelancing most of the time, but I you sort of release a new piece like pretty regularly, like every now and then I see a new piece come out, and even you jumped on the last art station challenge. I don't
yeah,
even know, like 24 or 48 hours before, and just like did everything super quick. Like
yeah,
how do you organize yourself to make sure that you're always producing? Because I know, just talking to people, like sometimes people just don't find the time or
hmm,
or the motivation to actually start something and
yeah.
finish it. Like, how do you go about making sure that A, you finish your projects, and B, that you actually stay productive and so on?
Yeah, honestly, man, that I feel that I don't know how that's for you, but I feel that's still something I really struggle with. Like I like how you say that I post up regularly, but in my mind, I really feel like a slacker. I really have to put myself to do personal work because if I'm honest, oftentimes I'd rather watch a movie or play a video game or something. So it's all about getting myself, excited for it. The challenge, the ArtStation challenge, was kind of something I wanted to do as a challenge for myself. So yeah, like you say, I started 24 hours before and did it in one go. But that kind of sucked, man. I just stayed up for 24 hours and just didn't sleep, and just I also did not really eat and just did it. I don't know why, but you know how sometimes you get a weird idea in your head. It's like, oh shit, like it is technically still possible to do this, and so fuck it, I'm just gonna give it a go, I guess.
Awesome,
Uh,
man.
but for the productivity part. Yeah, I really have to get myself excited for an idea. Like for example, this tentacle dude. I did this. I almost had it finished about uh, I don't know 2 months ago. Like I did this one. I did another one with like cables instead of arms,
Mm-hmm.
and I did this one right after that, like the next day or something. And then I just didn't feel like I didn't like it, and I didn't feel like finishing it. So the motivation part, I feel like that's the hardest, man. And I also feel that the being productive, that's the key to everything, which I definitely haven't solved. I have long stints where I don't do anything personal, and right now I kind of sort of let myself because if I force it, I'm not having fun with drawing anymore. And in the end, that's what it should be about. So I try to make it go naturally, not force it. And then when ideas come, really try to get myself excited for it and then do it. how is that for you? Like how do you handle that?
Me, it's like I don't have a lot of free time just because
Mhm.
like I work full time. I have Learn Squared, the family and everything, so I don't have a lot of free
Yeah,
time. So at first I was really struggling to get stuff done, and you end up doing, I would find myself freelancing and things like that, but working on projects I really didn't want to work on. And I think as time went by, I realized that the best way to get to stay productive and be prolific is, like you said, to just work on things that you enjoy.
yeah,
So anything I don't enjoy, I don't do.
yeah,
And sometimes I also get in situations where even the things that I enjoy, is it feels like a chore. So I don't have the motivation to draw or to model or to do anything like that. So I end up just taking a full break for like a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks sometimes, not doing anything, and just rewatching like sci-fi shows that I dig, or
hmm,
just going out and doing things with friends and whatever not. Because when I'm productive, I don't see anyone. Like
yeah,
I go to work,
sure,
I come home, I do what I need to do at home, and then I work all night. That's what I do, and I can do that for several months. But when I take a break, I really don't touch anything. Like I stop doing whatever it is, just because I need to recharge my battery, and that's something I'm very aware of. I always look at my motivation as a battery, and
mhm,
just like any electronic device we have, no matter what you're using it for, it depletes itself. So you always need to have some sort of activity to how do you call it, to push it and make it more I guess, to just get your mojo back in a
yeah,
way.
sure,
And the other thing that I've learned just over the last couple of years is, if I feel like procrastinating, to try as much as possible to do things that are to procrastinate on things that are actually useful. So if it's going to be watch a movie, watch something that is in line with things that you're interested in, or watch a documentary, or read a book that will actually give you cool ideas or whatever not. But whatever it is, because time is limited, like just use your time, whether it's to distract yourself, to entertain yourself, or to get work done. You like do it with stuff that actually matter to you and that you care about, and that are actually going to contribute to your development. So those are, you just
yeah,
have to be very aware of what's happening around you and what you're doing with your time.
yeah. No, definitely, man. I think that's yeah, great way to go about it. And for me, even with procrastination or let's say taking free time, I really allow myself to have that guilt free. That's one of the biggest things
Yeah,
I
it's
have
guilt free, man. I
at
don't feel
CV.
bad about taking a break, definitely.
Me neither. And for example, let's say I just got that new Uncharted story, that
Hmm.
game, and I really like that series. So I'll plan a time, even if I can make the time, even a day or a whole evening or a night or whatever, to just sit down and play that game and not think about anything else, and I completely relax. And I'll do that without any feeling of guilt. Like I don't give a shit. I don't feel like I have to draw or have to work or whatever. I'll just set that time aside to just enjoy that game and try to take in the experience to the fullest. And then, man, that helps so much in becoming, like happy again or whatever. If you're stressed or
Yeah.
getting ready for work again, it's yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah, stress and pressure is like the best way to sort of fail at whatever you're doing. Like putting too much pressure on yourself, and
Yeah,
whatever it is, man. As long as you can do you can take a step forward, no matter how small the step. like that's progress, because
Hmm.
it's more important to stay consistent on whatever it is that you're doing than to make big leaps and so on, because consistency will get you wherever you want to go, man, whether it's martial arts, whether it's art itself, or just, you know, being
Yeah,
a better person. You just take it a step at a time, and don't care about your own judgment or what people think about what you're doing. Just do you, in a way. Denda is
absolutely.
asking a quick question. How do you, like, he's asking how experimental are you when learning new techniques? Like, do you sort of chase them, or do you learn something new because the need comes up, or like how do you go about learning new skills?
Um, so that's definitely part of it. At this point, okay, so at this point in how I work, I kind of have a style or end product that I like, that I feel comfortable in working with. So I try to add on to that at this point. So for example, with Fusion 360 or with Modo, usually the end result, hopefully that'll evolve, but will still be the lines, even though 3D is under that, because that's just how I enjoy to draw. But yeah, the need definitely is important. Like for example, with Fusion, with that gun, I could have never drawn that, and it's such a cool thing to be able to implement new techniques. Like I don't know about you, man, but I'm super excited about that VR way of working too. Just the idea of being able to seeing designs in that physical space and
Papa
on full
Jama.
scale. Yeah, he's crazy, man.
He's
That guy gets me so excited about that stuff.
no, because he always shows up and goes like, "Hey, I just tried this new thing, and
Yeah,
here's the result." Like, just the idea of doing. Imagine, like, he sketches the tentacle pirate in 3D, and suddenly, just out of one sketch, he did that with the APC. Like, he just moves the
yeah,
camera around and has like all any shot he
yeah,
wants is right there. Like, he can change the the lens, and suddenly he has a wide angle. He can put it in.
yeah, man.
It's, yeah, it's pretty damn impressive.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are asking for him to come on the stream, or but the dude is so busy, and whenever he's not working on something, he's working on those experimental stuff. And but we'll get him back sometime soon, to either on a workshop or something like that.
That would be awesome. I'm watching that for sure. He's amazing, man. He's
Jama the Wizard.
yeah, dude. It's fucking
Um,
awesome.
all right,
Yeah.
guys, it's 2 p.m. If you guys have any last questions, just pop them up quick, and we'll answer them. And after that, just call it a wrap.
Cool.
You have a question here. How strong is your anatomy knowledge? Do you think it's something that's absolutely necessary to learn, or when you have access to something like DAS 3D, is that enough?
Mm. I think it's definitely one of my weak points, actually. That's why I mean, I've took Kevin's class, I think twice, and I've been doing, weekly figure drawing stuff ever since. I mean, I haven't done it lately, but I did it for 2 years or something every week. And I'm never satisfied. I don't think it's up to quality with how I want things to look. So that's why, I think something like Dust 3D is a perfect uh, tool to help me with that. And to otherwise, I probably just wouldn't do characters because I wouldn't be happy enough with the way it looks. So in this case, I mean, I'm not a purist or something that I feel that I have to, like do all that by myself. Like if that in this case that tool can help me, I think that's great. But I do think that it's really useful to learn the basics. So because sometimes you don't have everything figured out in DOS, or of course it's a 3D program, so everything doesn't look realistic like muscles and stuff. So I think in that case it can definitely, the basic understanding can definitely help you and benefit to take it a little step further maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always a plus, it's always great, but it's definitely not my strong point. No, so that's why I use that. Yeah.
Another question: how do you improve your line work and gain confidence while sketching a clean line, like when you're working on your
Yeah.
concepts?
So I try to improve my line work a lot by drawing on paper with pen. So I really force myself to do that. I used to force myself to do that in school too, and it's very difficult, especially at first, because it really sucks, and the work is not great. At least for me, it was really terrible when I started doing that. But it really forces me to slow down and to think about every line I'm drawing. And like I said earlier, try to think and visualize it before you draw it, and I feel that helped me improve the line work itself too, and the design too, and the confidence. If you draw a lot with pen, at a certain point, at first it's very frustrating, but at a certain point you gain a certain kind of confidence to just go for it because you kind of you can't go back, you can't erase anything, so you kind of have to develop a sort of confidence to do the line drawing and to do the design that way. So hopefully that helps. I can recommend drawing with pen for me at least.
Okay, just to wrap it up, like,
Mm-hmm.
if someone is coming from, like, just starting in, like, what sort of, if someone wanted to do the sort of work that you're doing right now but doesn't have the knowledge and is just starting, like, what
Yeah.
what would you tell them where to start? Like, what are, the foundation skills they need to understand? What are some of the
Yeah.
knowledge they need to have? Like, what is critical, what is
Yeah.
secondary, and so on?
Yeah. It's kind of like probably the answer that most people give, but for me, it all started with the foundation. So perspective, doing a lot of perspective drawing. For example, in Peter Hunt's class, we did a lot of time just only drawing cubes in perspective, just to get that into our heads. And it's kind of maybe a not too exciting exercise, but I think it's good to not skip that. So a lot of drawing on paper helped me a lot. I guess you could do in Photoshop too, but that physical touch of it. A lot of perspective drawing, doing all those basic classes like figure drawing, even if you're not good at it, like me, it really helped a lot with looking at how we draw shapes, how we look, try to look at three-dimensional forms and then bring that onto paper. The simple stuff like color and lighting, like for example James Gurney's book, Color and Light. Yeah, it's kind of like a boring answer, but it's always that those foundations for me is kind of what brought me here. I feel, especially doing that. So doing a lot of perspective drawings and then trying to draw a lot from nature. Basically, Peter Hand's class. Like if anyone has that option to take that class, I'd do it. Go to museums and with him and like, do all the draw trains, plans. Try to put that in a physical space, like in perspective, and in a physical 3D space on paper. Is that's for me was the most valuable. I think the most groundbreaking thing when I started it. Um, so yeah, that was one of my biggest ones. So I think that would be the main one actually.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Jido U. Kennedy says he vouches for that class. It's a killer.
Hell yeah, man. It's fucking awesome.
So, guys, I will call this one a wrap. Wouter, thanks again for coming on the stream, and I'm super excited to drop, like, the new course so people see what you did in it, and you
Yeah.
guys are going to be blown away. And just because Wookie came in with different goals in terms of what to do with Fusion 360, and he mentioned doing 3D printing and airbrushing some of his assets, and you'll get to see all that stuff, which is, yeah, it's going to be exciting. This is one course I think that's going to be a pretty solid one, and especially because of the extra content and the extra work that Wookie put in it. So yeah, as soon as
Thanks, man.
We're just doing some final touch-ups on the course, but we're almost there. So you just a little more. We're asking you guys to just be a little more patient, but we'll have it out, and once we do, you guys are going to be pretty stoked.
Yeah, cool. That was a cool class, man. Awesome
Yeah.
class to take.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to have you take other courses, man. I'm going to drop you on every single course that comes out.
Oh
Uh,
man, I would love to. If I have the time, I'll take all of them. It's great.
yeah,
I
we'll
love it.
figure something out. We'll figure something out.
Oh man. Well, thanks for inviting me for this, and thanks for everyone for listening, watching along. That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
weird, weird thing,
It's
but
fine.
cool. Good.
So we'll catch you guys next time. I haven't done these in a while, so this is the first one in a minute, but I'm aiming to do twice a month, and if I can do more, I'll do more. So, but I'll keep you guys in the loop anyhow. So you guys have a
Cool.
good one, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.
Alrighty. Okay, see you later.